Just once again, I would like to highlight that please you can use the breakout rooms at the bottom in Zoom so that you can shift between the rooms.
I think this is the first one. First 2A. This is 2A.
Yes, this is correct.
Okay, please let me repeat. Okay, for those in session 2A, you are invited to breakout room hall number 1. And while for 2B, hall number 2. Okay, so for those in the hall number 1, so you leave first and then you rejoin for the breakout room hall number 2. Am I right, Dr. Sharafi?
Yes, you are right. We see you in the hall 2, break session 2B.
السلام عليكم دكتور.
عليكم السلام.
دكتور هذه هي 2A الآن؟
Yes, this is hall 1 and 2A.
Thanks.
You can proceed, Dr. Ibrahim.
Okay, this is, I am the chair of this session, 2A, and before we start the presentations, let me introduce myself briefly. But by the time the attendees will be completed. I am currently an associate professor in the Department of Software Engineering at Bandar Monyeri University. I have a PhD degree in information systems from Middle East Technical University. Now in this session, we have 6 presenters, sorry. And the first presenter is Samar Ibrahim. He will present us a study entitled Systematic Review of Knowledge Management Integration in Higher Education Institutions with an emphasis on blended learning environment. Samar Ibrahim is here or not? Samar Ibrahim. Okay.
Hello everyone.
Now you can start. Yes, you can start your presentation. You have 10 minutes to present, then 5 minutes for questions and answers.
Okay.
And answers.
Thank you everyone for having the opportunity to allow me to present my paper and to describe what I did as my paper. Can you allow me please to share my screen? Okay, so as you can see, my title of the paper is Systematic Review of Knowledge Management Integration System in Higher Education Institution with an emphasis on a blended learning environment. As you can see, I start first with an introduction of the topic, research aim, literature review, methodology, result and discussion, and conclusion. This is my agenda. I will start first by providing a brief introduction of in the higher education institution where, there is something. Okay. Higher education institution knowledge management, what are these that create, transfer, share, and distribute knowledge and making it accessible to their community and society. So the process here creates a lot of opportunity as well as create challenges to higher education institution. Knowledge needs to be continuously and managed and in the organization to achieve all their mission, their vision and objective. And these practices are a collection of that are performed by academics and by organizations. This process are described as where it can be done through research, through teaching and learning, and through transference or through communications. Researchers are really interested in exploring the various and best modes of teaching and different content delivery methods associated, especially with learning management system implementation, in order to provide a more blended learning environment that integrate the digital as well as face-to-face delivery methods. My paper was to do a systematic review to find the different research in this area and to collect the barrier and the opportunities in this. So my research problem identification is to conduct a systematic review of knowledge management integration in higher education institution and examine specifically the learning management system implementation to explore all the strategies and approaches to achieve more a blended, innovative learning environment. My research questions were 6, and they included as a first, what are the main knowledge management processes implemented in higher education institution? What is the impact of this implementation? The second one is, what's the distribution of the selected study across the countries? The third is, what are the main research methods used in selected studies and which database are involved in these and publishing these studies? I have other questions. What are the relation between knowledge management process and innovation? And the fifth one is the impact of blended learning environment with learning management system implementation on academic performance in higher education institution. And finally, we concluded with a framework that can be to implement learning management systems in a more blended environment. If I want to look at all the literature review from before, I'm going to just give a brief on literature review of previous research. And say that knowledge can be defined into terms. It can be either tacit knowledge, which are related to the perception of a human, and versus explicit knowledge that are related to what can be seen. So the knowledge management processes are really required in all these organizations, according to ICISIA 2019, and their goal is to lead and to achieve more innovation in this organization and to compete more globally. This is why knowledge management processes needs to be looked at it as all processes and need to be included in the evaluating and in counseling and researching and in the administration. And this is why higher education institution needs to develop strategies and policy in order to be able to allow this blending and allow this processes to be included. And now I will go to the methodology of my research, which is followed a NUN in 2009 that performed a general strategy, which is to identify first the research question according to inclusion and exclusion criteria, to look at the data sources, the different data, and to look at from where you extraction according to the keyword, to qualify in a quality assessment procedure, protocol, I mean, and at the end you analyze and you code the data. If you look at the inclusion and exclusion criteria, I made sure that the papers we use only the papers that are included in English, the papers that are related to knowledge management and knowledge management process, and that are related more in higher education institution. And we look at papers between 2012 and 2021, and of course that are more related to blended learning. Of course, we look at the different keywords, and you can look at the keyword knowledge management, higher education institution, all of these keywords. I found we collected 325 papers, and then we tried to, using the Prisma methodology, Prisma concept approach, and we removed all the duplicates. Then we removed the one more related to that are we just take the papers that are more related with the topic according to abstract and reading, and then we move on to remove also all the one that are not related to exactly the blended learning, and we end up by a 16 paper. We perform also a qualitative assessment with a certain coding that are we did certain measurement that are related with which put the perfect criteria in 1 and 0.5 for the middle, and the partially and the completed and the not related into 1. And we look at different questions that are among these questions are the research, are they clearly aimed, identified, the knowledge management process are really well integrated, the suitable methods are really analyzed, so on in all different research paper. And we look at if the topic is really relevant to our study, or the studies are really related to the literature that we're looking for, or to the learning management system implemented, and to the blended environment. Of course, we put them in appendix, we divide them, and then we answer the different questions. The first general one was looking at the different studies in this area, and we noticed that the research papers are really between 2017 and 2020, which are really more involved in this. They were, and then you can see a decrease in 2021. Maybe it's because of it's COVID and all what happened, but you can see the area is really increased in between 2017 and 2020. Then we look at the second question, which is what are the main knowledge management process implemented, and in which area, and we found out that mainly it is in the creation, acquisition, and sharing, which is more related in the higher education institution area. In the second question, what's the distribution study according to countries? We looked at the country, and we found out that Malaysia is really among the most paper research paper. It goes after that, it goes Iran, and then Pakistan, and all the others are really equal with distribution. And then we look at the third question, which is the methods that are used, what are the type of study, what are the type of and which paper, which publishing that publish these papers. So as a research methods, it was more related to a survey and survey interview, and then you can see the list is case study and systematic review. Whereas if you look at who are the one who published these papers, you can see, of course, Google Scholar, Emerald, Research Page, we have Elsevier and IEEE, and you can see the most is Emerald. You have it in this regard. If you for the fourth question that you adopt, what are the relation between knowledge management process and innovation in higher education institution? We found out that innovation is really related and emerged in a crucial trend. So knowledge management process is really related to how to improve and to encourage innovation in higher education practice. Also, many studies emphasize the innovation that play a major factor in contributing in knowledge management. So it goes in both ways. And many studies also emphasize the sustainability that depends on continuous improvement and innovation curriculum, that we need to look at that in curriculum and services. What is the impact of a blended learning environment with LMS? And we look at the learning management system implementation on academic performance. Many studies discuss that learning management system provide a more convenient, more flexible, student-centered way of teaching learning. However, many identified that it could provide a signal of student academic performance, and many studies emphasize the limitation of the research in this area. So not much limitation in learning management and how to adapt it with the learning management system with the blended learning. Finally, we adopt a framework to identify how we make sure that the delivery of a blended learning environment to use face-to-face and traditional face-to-face and online learning or that adopt learning management systems. So we adopt three important factors: the face-to-face learning, the learning LMS mode, and the web mode. So could be combined together, and this framework was allowed a more interactive, more collaborative, more innovative way to improve the academy. As a conclusion and the invitation to the study, we found out that really knowledge management process is really a critical factor in higher education success, institutional success, and in order to achieve the goals, the objective in our world, in our competitive world. There are many limitations where this learning management system are not used in the right environment. They need to be more associated with to involve more with the innovation and to be more blended learning environment. The future work could be a case study for implementing learning management system in higher education system. Thank you very much. And if you have a question, please.
Any questions? Okay, if there is no question, I can ask a question. Which databases you included in the analysis or to collect data?
You can see we put them. It is we look at Google Scholar, we look at Emerald, we look maybe on the PowerPoint I didn't inform it, but yes, it is. You can see it's there in the Prisma. It is there, so you can see Google Scholar, Scopus, ACM, Emerald. Sorry, I didn't mention that, but maybe because I was trying to be a limit in the 10 minutes timing, but yes, it is there. Google Scholar, Scopus, ACM, and Emerald.
Any other questions? If there is no question, we can proceed.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you too. Welcome to our session again. And the second presenter will be Lubna Mohammed and Musar Al-Jabari. They will present at a paper entitled Perception of Word Initial and Word Final Phonemic Constructs using an online simulation computer program by Yemeni learners of English as a second language in Malaysia. Yes, you can start.
Hi, everyone. Is my screen out visible?
Yes.
Okay. So let me show. Okay, thank you very much and welcome everyone. I'm presenting the paper entitled Perception of Word Initial Word Final Phonemic there is something is here. Phonemic contrast using an online simulation computer program by the Yemeni learners of EFL English as a foreign language in Malaysia. Okay, this is the agenda. We will go through the main elements of any research, background and problem, literature review, methodology, and the results. So as introduction, we know that English language is not the first language. It is the second or the foreign language for Arabic peoples, and Yemeni peoples are Arabic peoples. So that's they face a lot of problems when they try to learn, and especially it was found in speaking and writing. And it was found also that for that the sounds or the phonemic contrasts that are not found in L1 always that they are not in L1, they will be easier to be learned. If we have some differences between two languages, so those who are new will be easy to be learned. Otherwise, other researchers found that those sounds which are similar will be easier. So here is the contradiction. And these differences or these challenges that faced by the Arabic people, and here we talk about Yemeni people, has been related to different factors which might increase the influence of L1. We are focusing in this study on two factors, which is the length of residence in Malaysia, in speaking English language country, and the context, the situation where the sounds are existed in the world. many researchers has found in different countries, not in Yemen, because in the Yemeni context, I couldn't find a study conducted about the phonology, phonetics and phonology, and especially on the effect of word initial and word final position, the different contexts, how it affects on the perception of the sounds and also on the length of residence. That's why we selected these two factors to be the main of my study. So the main aim is to examine the perceptual ability of the selected English phonemic contrast by Yemeni learners of EFL in relation to different contexts as they resident in Malaysia, and those are the three phonemic contrasts. And there are two main questions. What is the effect of the context in the perceptual ability of the Yemeni people? And what is the effect of the length of residence on the perceptual ability of those Yemeni people in perceiving the sounds that appear to them in two different contexts? In the literature, we focus on the models that studied the English language and compared the languages and found the differences. The main here we focused on is speech learning model, SLM, which stated clearly that any similarities between two languages will bring to a positive transfer. That means will make the learning of the language is easier. The same was emphasized by contrastive analysis theory, which stated to study any errors of a language, we need to compare the two languages, and any errors might be because the differences between the two languages, while the similarities will cause successful learning, so no errors. So what we did is applying this CA, contrastive analysis, to find the differences. The languages here is English and Arabic. We focus on the Yemeni language, Yemeni dialects of Arabic, and specifically we took the Southern, which is Aden and Ta'ez dialects. And we found out that those bilabial, labiodental, and bilabial and alveolar affricates are missing. So we studied these three phonemic contrasts. How we did that one? Of course, without technology, we couldn't achieve this project because technology is used widely, especially for teaching, for learning, for practicing the phonetics, the fonts, the sounds from different ages. So we applied technology to achieve this project. The research design was experimental, static group comparison. We had two groups, but no pre-test. It was only a post-test. One of those group was went through the experiment. Another group didn't go through the experiment. And the division of these groups was based on the length of residence in Malaysia. All the participants were Yemeni, non-speaking of English. They don't have any chance to practice English with any native speaker. They didn't study English before arriving to Malaysia. They all enrolled to institutions to study English in Malaysia as they arrived, and the total was 42. They were differ in one criteria only in their length of residence. We have 4 months and 3 years. So we want to see how this duration of residence in Malaysia affect their perceptual ability of the phonemic contrast not existed in English. So post-test or no post-test, only no pre-test, only post-test was applied for both group, and group B only has been taken the experiment, long length of residence. Sorry, both groups took the experiment and the independent for the long of residence in Malaysia. To collect the data, we used two software. The first one was AT&T text-to-speech online computer program. That program was used to create the stimuli. The stimuli was created based on the three phonemic contrasts. Let me show you here. This is the three phonemic contrasts. We created 6 minimal pairs, and from these minimal pairs, it was duplicated by using 2 different voices from UK models, one for male, one for female. So the total was 84 experiment or 84 items that the participants will go through the experimenter. Then we took these items into BRAT software that was used to create the discrimination experiment. There are two stages to do the experiment. One stage was to prepare and orient the participants what is going to happen, what they have to do. Then they have been seated in a quiet area and asked to select same or different as they hear the phonemic contrast or the minimal pairs. After that, the data was transferred into the Excel sheet in order to be marked 0 for wrong answer and 1 for correct answer. And by using the SPSS, we have analyzed the data and we applied the independent sampling t-test in order to find the differences between the two groups. As a result, yes, for the first question, the effect of context, yes, there is a difference in the effect of context. Most or all of the participants could perceive the words or the phonemic contrast in the initial word position better than the final word position, and that's in alignment with previous research. Regarding the length of residence, also, it was approved that length of residence in Malaysia makes a difference. Those students who are with long length in residence in Malaysia, they have the ability to perceive the sounds or those who are absent in Arabic language much better than those who are not. And this also in, we can say, agreement with previous research. So even though those who are with short residence in Malaysia and long residence in Malaysia, in both groups, they could achieve or they perceived the phonemic contrast not presented in Arabic, but the difference was clear between both of them in terms of the initial and final. Means both questions, if we will say, hypothesize that initial, that the different context of phonemic contrast makes a difference in the perceptual ability, we say yes. Another one, whether the length of residence in Malaysia makes a difference in the perceptual ability, we say yes. So, as a conclusion, we can say that this study has enlightened a new maybe light for new idea for conducting research about phonetics and phonology, which exactly usually it is not the area to be touched too much in Arabic countries. There are not many studies in the literature regarding this, and that we have found that length of residence is very important. Living in a country where speaking English is very important to improve the language. However, the limitation of this study was that it's only focusing on the phonemic contrast on the consonants and studied only 3 missing or absent phonemic contrast. But maybe future we can do for the voices and the voice and voices between the vowels as well, not only the consonants. However, this study will be very helpful if we implemented these results and created a software to give more practice to the students and give chance for the teacher to teach using that app to focus on the absent sounds. That's all from me. Here are the selected materials. Thank you for your attention and welcome to your comments.
Any questions? Okay, then we can proceed to the third presentation. Dam Tri Chong, you're welcome. BMA approach for university students, entrepreneur intention.
No. Hello, students. Do you see my slides?
Yes.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Hello, students. I am Dam Tri Chong. Today, I would like to recite my topic, BMA approach for university student entrepreneur intention. The content of my presentation as follows: introduction, purpose, literature review, my chart theory, result, and conclusion. First, I present introduction. Anti-racist has sought the attention of professors, also policymakers for the latest of ministry. The principal reason concerning this potentials for the developing demand for antigenous that visit of economic role by generating lower thought and transforming them into beneficial investment. Antigenous will also consider the challenge for the development of a significant economy to improve the nation economy and bring and sustain its competitiveness in challenging the growing tendency of globalization. On the other view, Paul has on 2019 said that undergraduate students will consider latent antigenous and anterior intention has been the central research to anticipate the anterior behavior of university students. The former study in the literature suggests that first, such as perceived desirability, perceived feasibility, propensity to ask, anterior education, family background, prior work experience, that is versus student anterior intention with various approaches. For example, same, same, multiple and regression analysis. However, these approach generally selects only the best model among suitable choice model. Besides the generation way commonly disregarded is the uncertainty associated with the model solution. So the model estimate of outcome may be biased and leads to incorrect conclusion in analyzing student and anterior intention. While PMA approach were one of the reliable methods for showing model uncertainty, which enable the assessment of the chain of resource in option term by estimating both zero probability to coefficient and model. This paper report Bayesian model approach to select optimal models for university student anterior intention. So the papers of this paper report Bayesian model approach to select the optimal model for business student anterior intention. Next is the literature review. In this study, the theoretical background using anterior event model. The anterior event model recommended by Sabaro and Sokoi in 1980. And in the anterior event model, anterior behavior selection depends on three factors. That's where perceived desirability, perceived feasibility, and propensity to ask. Moreover, the former study suggested all the factors such as anterior education, family background, and prior work experience that affected student anterior intention. And next is the method theory. In this research, the BMA approach with studio software were applied to estimate the optimal model. And in this study, the independent variable were six factors: perceived desirability, perceived feasibility, propensity to ask, anterioreness, education, family background, and prior work experience. And the variable was student anterior intention. And the calculation for the posterior of the model as seen in this slide. And then I send the result about research statistics about when there are 130 male students account for 44%, and 163 female students account for 56%. And about the school year student, the first year student with 41 students account for 14%, and the second year student with 100 and 1 student account for 34%. The third year student with 85 students account for 29%, and the final year student with 66 students account for 23%. Another reason the Bayesian model averaging table 1 so the best 4 model was selected. As shown in the table, you see 3 register variable. Perceived feasibility, propensity to ask, anterior education were 100%. This means that 3 register variables have been in on the model. And perceived desirability were 94.9%. That means this register variable has one 94.9 times on the model. And table 1 also model 1 recommend 4 register variable. And these 4 register variable is length 60.6 variant of the student interior intention. And in the model 1 also BAC index lowest when compared with other model with minus 0.025. Also, the model 1 have a boss probability H1 were highest when compared with other model with 84.9%. Model 2 recommend 3 register variable, but the zero probability happened in model 2 was low, certainly 5.1%. Model 3 recommend 5 register variable, but the zero probability of model 3 was low, certainly 5%. And model 4 recommend 5 register variable, but the zero probability of happened in model 4 were low, generally 5%. Compare with other approach, for example, Pavana, Joseph. Pavana using SIM and Joseph using multiple regression analysis. But the approach generally selects only one best model among feasible statistic model. But in this study, we use the BMA approach as length is 4, identify the 4 best model, and this is consider is line with the Russell, because in the few line you don't have only one choice, you can have equivalent choice. Another is the conclusion. This research applied the BMA approach to select the optimal models for undergraduate student anterior intention, and the result selected the best 4 model. The finding also identified the 4 key determinants: we see desirability, we see feasibility, propensity to ask, and anterior education. That's in low undergraduate student anterior intention. The finding also has the education manager have some option for redesigning the curriculum and the content of the program anterior art university. Likewise, anterior should be a compulsory subject at university, especially in business school. Since anterior subjects will be the best to anterior behavior and becoming our future anterior nurse. Thank you very much for listening.
Any questions? Okay, then, if there is no questions, we can proceed. Wafa, Dr. Wafa Sawa. Okay.
Assalamualaikum. Yeah, may you make me host, please?
Yes.
You can share your screen directly.
Yes, you can share.
I'm sharing. So I think you are able now to see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is Wafa Sawah. Today, I'm going to present a research paper entitled "The Effectiveness of Tinker Platform in Helping Early Stage Students to Acquire the Coding Skills Needed for 21st Century." Okay, I can't move. Sorry. Okay. I will start by the introduction section, then literature review, methodology, after that results, and finally the conclusion. So starting by introduction, and as all of you are aware, the online learning platform has been increased in recent years, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic. In line with this shift, many schools and educational organizations heeded to this platform to teach the students many skills, including coding. This paper focuses on Tinker as one of the popular online coding platforms that is widely used in UAE schools and many other governmental initiatives to investigate the effectiveness of it in helping young Emirati students acquire coding skills. For the rationale, many authors feel that online coding platform and age-appropriate development environments allow students to easy entry point into programming. Online coding platforms that help our students develop their capabilities in computing are very dynamic to study. We as parent or even teacher want to make sure that these platforms are appropriate for our kids and match their age and the level of understanding, especially because we are speaking about complex skill like coding. Coding, as you may know, coding has abstract concept and complex skill that may be hard for some students to understand and absorb. So, however, of the importance of this topic, and inadequate attention has been paid to the effectiveness of this platform on our kids. For the purpose of this study, this paper highlights the importance of coding skill for students and reveals the effectiveness of online coding platform for acquiring these skills. The purpose of this data study, therefore, can be broken down to the following research question. First one, how effective is the Tinker coding platform is helping early ages students acquire the coding skills required for the 21st century? Second one is, what is the impact of the Tinker coding platform on early ages students? Turning now to the literature review. The literature review starts by a theoretical framework underpinning this study. What follows is an account of answer to the research question, which is synthesized into three main themes. First one, importance of coding skills for students in 21st century. Second one, the role of online coding platforms on developing coding skills to early age students. Third one, the effectiveness of Tinker coding platform. So, theoretical framework, the Piaget theory of cognitive development is the first theory that underpins this study. Primary students, according to Piaget, which fall under the concrete stage, according to Piaget, don't understand the concrete reasoning and struggle with logic and mentally transforming skill. Therefore, when we teach coding to students, we should consider their level age of understanding and choose appropriate ways of teaching that fit their progression of cognitive development. Also, rigorous diffusion of innovation theory. Rigorous adoption of innovation theory entails a person doing something different than they previously did. The students who adopt an innovation early have distinct benefit than those who embrace it later. Third theory is discovery learning theory. John Brunner, in his discovery learning theory, believes that discovery should be used in the classroom to help students acquire problem-solving skills. Coding can help students to use their imagination and trigger their creativity to discover the truth and the correlation, and also it improves their critical thinking skills. The first theme here is importance of coding skills in the 21st century. And after exploring the literature, many authors, or let's say most of the authors, agreed that coding is a core and vital skill in 21st century, and all students should learn it. Some of them argued that the students should learn it in an early ages in primary schools. Moreover, some authors equalize the importance of coding to some basic skills like reading and writing. It also develops a student skill in various subjects such as science and mathematics. Additionally, it gives young students lifelong skills for the future. for online coding platform. Online coding platforms make coding easy for children to understand because they depend on visual way, graphical environment, and gamification strategy, which make coding attractive to students. And however, online coding platform, like any other online platform, have not escaped issues like cheating, lack of communication, lack of interaction, splitting the student into group, and so on. Turning now to the effectiveness of Tinker coding platform. Tinker utilizes visual code blocks to introduce logic concepts to children by providing free activities, games, and stories to teach coding to the primary students. And despite the numerous benefits offered by Tinker, some authors unfortunately question its usefulness. They argue that when the primary students start learning coding by block-based way, they feel overwhelmed when they try to learn the text-based. But yet the Tinker tried to overcome this challenge by providing a feature called Toggle that enables the student to see their actual code while they are working in block-based coding. Turning now to the methodology, this study employs a mixed method approach to investigate primary students, Emirati primary students' performance after engaging them in 2 weeks online programming in coding. And based on the mixed method approach, of course, we have two instruments, the first one observation and second one survey. The observation was to assess the students' performance, and during the program, the survey was distributed to the student at the end of the program to know their perception about the whole program and the platform. The sample consists of 319 Emirati students, and the material used during the program was programming 201 in Tinker. It's very simple and easy programming that use gamification and unplugged activities to teach the students the basics of programming, especially Python programming language. The Zoom and WhatsApp were the main communication tools used during the program. For the results, the qualitative results indicated that most students completed their assigned lessons effectively and made significant progress in learning to code. However, few students didn't complete their tasks or score well in quizzes and projects. After communicating with the parents and the students, it became clear that some parents enforced their kids to attend this program. As a result, they didn't follow the guidelines or attend the sessions or follow with us. Lack of live interaction and communication posed a threat in the online learning environment and hampered also some activities from fully participated in the learning process. Language also was an obstacle for some students from fully understanding some programming concepts. For the quantitative results, the first part of the survey was to investigate the effectiveness of Tinker platform. Most of the students agreed that the Tinker was easy for them and that it could advance their level of programming skills. Second part was to question the trainer support. Most of the students also agreed that the trainer were very helpful and supported them during the program. Based on the study results analysis, the authors found a high correlation between the easiness of Tinker platform and the trainer support during the program. As you can see here, most of the statements have approximately the same standard of deviation, which indicate that the participants took part in the study have the same attitudes and level of agreement towards the programming and the platform. However, when the last question was to ask them whether they prefer to attend the online or future online classes or in Canvas, actually a big number prefer to attend, they enjoy the learning programming, but they don't prefer to attend any online future course. So to conclude, online learning platforms and with agreement with most of literature allow an easy entry point to learn code, and speaking specifically about Tinker with its interactive tools, fun activities, and puzzles. The Tinker learning platform is a good option for teaching programming to early age students because Tinker presents a game approach to critical thinking education for young children, allowing them to learn complex programming ideas through engaging and relevant methods for their ages and interests. However, of course, as I mentioned before, like any other online platform, some issues have been raised, like lack of communication, lack of interaction, cheating, and so on. So they also recommended to have the whole benefit from such platforms like Tinker. It's recommended to use Tinker in different educational approaches, like blended learning, hybrid learning, or even flipped classroom setting where the teacher are present and can facilitate this learning process. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you for your kind listening, and if you have any questions, please send me it to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you too for your kind good and nice presentation. And also, I want to thank the previous presenter, which is Dr. Chang. I forgot to thank to him. I am thanking to him as well. If is there any questions? Any questions? Any suggestions? Also, you can write your questions. I can read from the chat.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Okay. We can proceed. But it was really good prepared presentation. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Let us proceed. Qasim Elajmi and his friends will present us a presentation or a paper entitled "The Adoption of Cloud-Based E-Learning in HIEs with the Mediation of Information Culture Factors, a Conceptual Framework using Diffusion of Innovation and VM theory." You can present your presentation, Dr. Elajmi.
Thank you, Prof. Ibrahim, for your introduction, and I would like to thank the organizing committee for offering such unique chances to deliver and to share our research work. So my presentation is seen by you?
No, not yet. Can you share your screen?
Yeah, actually I was sharing. So let me stop sharing and try again.
Can you proceed? I mean, change the page.
How about now?
I can't see,
It's
but
not sharing?
what about? Yes, okay, you can start. Okay.
Okay. So thank you again. So my research is actually about the adoption of cloud-based e-learning in higher education institutions, actually in Omani higher education institutions, utilizing of the DOI and bit viability model with using a moderation of which is the information culture coming up to conceptual framework. These were the stage of journey for this research. Started from the problems we've noticed that there were less adoption of cloud-based e-learning higher education in higher education institutions in Oman. Based on that, we've just, towards making a review and try to find the data which it is relevant to the topic of our research from derived, the literature review, reputed databases. Try to utilize and using the very significant and relevant keywords, which is mainly adoption models, higher education institutions, and Omani context. Then, with regard to from that, we've derived the hypothesis, and then we had to contextualize this, hypothesis, and we have come up with 11 hypotheses as we will see. Then we've started our, after data gathering and data analyzing, and testing the data, collected data in terms of constructive validity and convergent validity in order to validate the whole model, then reaching to the conclusion. This will be the agenda of my presentation today. As all of you may know about the cloud computing now, it is an outcome of the 4IR, wherever we go, we find some services in our institutions, higher education institutions, about cloud computing services is there. That's why we've just focused on the cloud computing services. Also should touch the higher education institutions as we are preparing the generation for the future. With the integration of these models in higher education institution context, still some area to explore. This was one of the outputs of the literature review being done. So the main aim of this article or this research is to assess the existing, adoption models, and especially which are in a context of higher education institutions, utilizing or using the division of innovation and VIT viability model. Some items like we will see, we've reached into a proposed conceptual framework. This was actually the initial proposed framework. We've contacted that some items or constructs from DOI and from the fit viability model, we have derived task and technology for fit, construct, and economic and IT infrastructure and organization characteristics for viability. This we've just tried to study how are these would affect on the students' performance, especially after adding as a moderator information culture. From the literature review, actually, we've been, using the cross-sectional review where we have in a specific time last year, the end of last year, or at the beginning of this year, we've just tried to gather an recent and updated information based on the changes happen in the global recently due to 21st century skills implementation, especially in Oman. So from the DOI, we've just derived these characteristics based on as an output of the literature review being done. We've focused on their results and the recommendations of each articles, and these are considered as a significantly impact on the adaptation of any technology in general and in higher education institutions in specific. From VIT viability model, as you can see, and these actually considered to be one of the major affecting on the performance when it comes to the performance, especially the performance of the student as our context here in this presentation. We've derived here actually 11 hypotheses rather than questions, and we were trying to test how we've just proposed or hypothesized that these characteristics would positively and significantly impact or has an influence on a student's performance in higher education institutions. These are the quantitative just method we have used, a quantitative cross-sectional design. It helped us to just at a specific time or with a specific data helped us to investigate during doing the literature review in adoption factors, because we were looking for which factor are most frequent and repeated and recommended by the previous literature review, using DOI and bit viability model when the consider of the higher education institution context in Oman. These are the instruments that the implementation. We've just start with a close-ended questionnaire consists of 19 items for the bit viability model and 24 items for DOI. As you can we've seen before, we've sent the questionnaire through the Survey Monkey. We've sent to 540 students, but we've just received the completed survey 321. After that, we had to make sure we did the validation for them as a pilot test. We took the first 20 participants, and we've reached to that the validity it is there as long as the Cronbach alpha were above 0.7. We have used as a software for analyzing smart PLS, and for the descriptive statistics we have used the SPSS for the demographics data, and we have used some other validation like what we will see now soon, confirmatory factor analysis in other variables. Actually, these are the general results that based on the outer loading of the whole construct, we've seen that most of the constructs achieve greater than 0 and 60. This is which explained that the relevance of the research hypothesis to the aim of this study. Also, all these variables received greater the coefficient that AVE is more than 50, as what we will see soon now. So also passed the discriminant validity. So based on this result, that's the pre-test being done for the pilot study, we have just tested the measurement. We have tested our model based on the measurements, and we based on structure, outer and inner. We've find that the Cronbach alpha it is above 0.7 and outer loading above 0.7. The convergent also validity being achieved 0.5. This is the cut-off for each validation here. So we can consider our model passed in terms of measurement model assessment. Then we move to the structure model assessment also, where we have this is the path coefficient of as the validity and path relationships. We've got the B value and T value in the range of a significance range like what we will see. And the coefficient of determination also we've relied on the R square, and we have got the majority of the factors received either substantial or medium, so we can consider this pass as per the Hensler and here 2016. The conclusion we reached to, we started with 11 hypotheses. 9 hypotheses were supported, 2 of them were not supported as the numbers list, so we can consider the model is validated. This is the more detailed about this, the convergent validity. We assessed by using the average variance extracted, and as long as it is above 0.5, then the measurement being passed. So that's why we say, even you can see that all of them were between 0.5 and 0.7 approximately. For discriminant validity also, we've actually relied on HTMT, as today the Prof. Mark have said that this is the much better than relying on Fornell and Larker. Why? Because why we use it, because this discriminant validity considered or we use it to deduct the lack of discriminant. That's why it is recommended. So as long as all its value were below 19, that's been passed. When it comes to the path relationship, so we have just analyzed path analysis and we've got this result. Based on this result, we came to know the most of these are, the 9 constructs were, significant, affecting on the students' performance based on the context of Omani higher education institutions and based on the studied population. Unfortunately, the impact of economic also were there, but was not as significant. And this actually is explained due to the would be due to the knowledge of the sample study we have studied. They don't have that much information about the economic and organization and how this would affect. So the result is very reasonable, and this is in line with the some of the literature review. When it comes to the information culture, actually it is usually, or this is based on the results we have done based on the previous research, we found it significantly moderated the relationship between when the adoption, factors which we have selected derived from literature review, and the decision to adopt cloud-based e-learning, which will its affect on the students' performance. These are the we have analyzes based on the R square, and as we said that some of the constructs were achieved substantial value based on the cutoff for each as per the Hensler as per here, 2014. Only just one here moderate, and there is 2 complexity and compatibility and observability received a small effect on it. So what we can conclude here, that this study actually is concluded that the technology adoption factors being selected like relative advantage, complexity, compatibility, and others have a significant influence in on a student's performance when adding the information culture to it. Second point, that's why when this point is explained actually, because when we say cloud-based e-learning, that means we are dealing with information, and as long as the information culture is there, definitely it would affect positively, and this is what we found on the students' performance. The significance of the developed the proposal conceptual framework, we say this is just an introductory. Here in Oman, just they almost, to the best of the knowledge of the me, that's not no institution have used that completed system of cloud-based e-learning. These are the recommendation for the decision maker. What we can say, that's fine, is the proposed model or conceptual framework can be adapting in higher education institutions just to find out and to identify their current stage where, and they can move based on that. So I would recommend for future to be done that, to examine the relationship which is as per this study, to for more or elaboration or in the different context or in the different sampled study, and this is what we are planning to do, inshallah. So conclusion, we can say that this is study proof that's how far is beneficial for a decision maker to utilize of, because in higher education institution, usually we need a decision maker to take a decision and to convince them, because there is a cost for adopting any cloud-based e-learning. So we need to convince them this would help them maybe to take a decision or to take a step toward it. All these factors would not be limited to these factors. Definitely there would be any other factors, and we need to work out on the economic. As we said, it is not insignificant. Economic and organizational structure would improve the quality of our proposed framework. As we said, this is just starting in for higher education institutions in Oman, where they can move toward and do more steps towards adopting cloud-based e-learning. Thank you. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you again.
Thank you for your presentation. It was really good and methodologically sound well. Any questions? You can also write. If you have any questions, you can write and I can read. Okay, we can move to the next presentation. Thank you very much, by the way. I'm forgetting to thank the presenters. Sorry for that. Thank you very much again. It was a nice presentation. And now the next one will be Wang Shengzi and Nazuruddin Muhammad Nizam. They will present a paper entitled as Research on the Application of Virtual Reality Technology in Teaching of Support Technology in Colleges and Universities. Sorry, Wang, are you here? Dr. Wang? Dr. Wang is not here, I think. If they didn't attend, we can proceed to next one, the last one actually. So yes, I think they didn't attend, any of them. So we can proceed the next presenter, Azza Alawadhi and Ravi Tabet and Eman God. They will present us a paper entitled as Undergraduate Students' Attitudes towards Remote Learning During COVID-19 Pandemic, a case study from the United Arab Emirates.
Yes, can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, can I share my screen now?
Yes.
Do you see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Shall we start? Okay. So hello everyone and welcome to my presentation. My name is Azza Alawadhi and I am a PhD student at the British University in Dubai. My paper is entitled as Undergraduate Students' Intentional Behavior of Remote Learning During COVID-19 Pandemic. This is during the next 10 minutes, I will outline the background of the study, the purpose and research questions, relevance and importance, the conceptual framework I will be using, the methodology and research design, the key findings, and finally, I will address the limitations and contributions of the study. So, the pandemic, according to the UNESCO, the pandemic created massive damage to the educational system in history, affecting more than 1.4 billion students worldwide in more than 190 countries all over the world. And since March 2020, many countries, including the United Arab Emirates, declared a state of health emergency. Therefore, campus events, workshops, and face-to-face teaching were suspended to ensure student safety. Higher education is no different than schools. They had to react very quickly to and adapt to an unplanned, rapid, and almost forced transition from traditional face-to-face teaching to online education. So suddenly we went from face-to-face learning to remote learning. And we thought that it's worthwhile to examine, after a year of the pandemic, it's worthwhile to investigate how college students feel about this change. So what is remote learning? Remote learning is a new concept that has been a focus of research in recent years. Some people refer to it as the teaching during the pandemic, and they refer to it as emergency e-learning. Others refer to it as emergency remote teaching. The most common definition in the literature is it's a temporary, sudden, and fast transition of conventional teaching to distance or online education due to a crisis. And it's different from pre-planned online learning. In this study, we refer to remote learning as any learning that takes place in an entirely online environment using live video conferencing tools such as Collaborate or Zoom, and with no traditional face-to-face interaction. The purpose, in terms of the purpose of the study, our purpose is to examine college students' behavioral intention towards their remote learning experience during the pandemic. We have two research questions. The first one is there any significant difference among college students' behavioral intentions towards remote learning in terms of gender? So we wanted to see if there are differences between male and female students. And the second question was, what is the impact of perceived ease of use and perceived usefulness on students' behavioral intention towards remote learning? In terms of relevance and importance, so why we chose to conduct this paper, in reviewing the literature, we found that previous studies, previous work was mostly based on pilot studies, especially those who came out during 2020, 2021, during the first phase of the breakout. Moreover, the research into remote learning remains a relatively new field in the UAE context and in the whole, actually, Gulf region. And we wanted to present some empirical findings by conducting quantitative research. So this is the conceptual framework that we followed. We adapted it from the famous TAM. We wanted to measure the perceived usefulness and perceived ease of use impact on students' acceptance or behavioral intention of remote learning. This table summarizes the methodology. We used a simple random sample with 216 students who self-reported and chose to answer the survey, which was constructed by Google Forms. We used a cross-sectional design, so it was mainly quantitative. We used, again, as we said, an adapted survey with 12 items using Likert scale ranging from agree to disagree, strongly agree to strongly disagree. We piloted the questionnaire with 12 students. We calculated the Cronbach alpha, and it showed a good reliability level. And we used SPSS to perform t-test and multiple linear regression. Again, so I mentioned this before, we used a cross-sectional design because of its benefit in collecting large amount of data in a short period of time. This table summarizes the demographic information of the participants. As you can see, the females, the number of females are more than the number of males, which is actually a limitation in this study, which females might be overrepresenting themselves. This is an area for future research. In terms of the instrument design, again, we said we adapted the survey and assess student attitudes and behaviors of online learning or remote learning. The survey was administered via Google Forms, and it consisted of 3 sections. Again, let's go around to the key findings. So we conducted a t-test And it shows that there is no significant differences between the mean of male students and the mean of female students in terms of behavioral intention towards remote learning. These graphs shows that figure 3, for example, illustrate approximate linear relationship between behavioral intention and ease of use. And figure 4 shows that approximate linear relationship between behavioral intention and perceived usefulness. And this analysis indicates that students have very positive intentions towards remote learning in the future. This table summarizes the descriptive statistics from the survey items, as you can see. In terms of the limitation, the present study has some limitations that should be acknowledged. First of all, the use of student self-report data. Self-report data are always subject to biases, which may affect the reliability and validity of the research. Moreover, as we mentioned before, the sample size, the females are overrepresenting. So larger female sample, there is always a possibility of under or overrepresentation of the population. In addition, future research, maybe we can conduct a longitudinal design now that we are going on the 3rd year of this hybrid or online model or this change. And maybe to include as well instructors' perspectives. Hopefully you enjoyed this very brief presentation, and I'm ready to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you too for your good presentation. Any questions? I think there is no question.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you too. I want to announce the 6th presenter and the previous one, Wang Shengi and Nazaruddin Muhammad Nizam. Are you available? Are you here? I think they are not available and they are not attended the conference. So we were having 7 presentations, but one of them didn't attend. We completed 6 presentation, and I think all of them was well prepared, and all of them methodologically sound. So we can finish this session. I thank you all. Thank all of the participants. If there is no comment or suggestions, we can finish this session. Any comments?
Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim, for being with us today.
Thank you, Dr. Al-Imran. It was very nice to be with you in
Thank you
this
so much.
good conference. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Just please finalize the comment. There is a form, I think it's already sent to you. Would you please finalize it and send it back to us?
Sure, yes, I will.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, bro.
The other parallel session is still running, so it would be good if you can join the next session, and then we would have a break for a few minutes. Then we would have the second keynote speaker. So it would be good if you can join the second session. Thank you.